High Admiral Vexteri of the Nexian Empire stood motionless on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dawn, his four eyes fixed on the tactical display before him. The unknown vessel that had appeared at the edge of their territory defied everything the Nexians knew about technological progression. It was ugly by their standards, a dark gray rectangular mass bristling with what appeared to be weapon emplacements. It hauled scared and pitted from countless impacts. Another primitive species attempting to reach for the stars, Sub-Commander Zira noted dismissively, her crystalline appendages shifting in what passed for a shrug among her kind. "Shall we begin the standard uplift protocols, Admiral?" Vexteri's primary heart clenched with unease. Something about this vessel's configuration troubled him deeply. "Magnify Sector 7 of the hull," he commanded. The display shifted, focusing on what appeared to be impact marks. "Those aren't random collision patterns. Those are weapons fire impacts." And the hull wasn't breached. The bridge fell silent. In 3,000 years of expansion, the Nexian Empire had never encountered a hull material capable of withstanding their weapons. Even their own ships relied on energy shields rather than armor, as physical materials strong enough to resist modern weapons simply didn't exist, or weren't supposed to. "Ship profile doesn't match any known species," the sensor officer reported. "Length approximately 1.2 kilometers. Energy readings are..." "Admiral, these can't be correct. The power output exceeds our entire battle group combined." "Impossible," Zira snapped. "No species capable of producing such energy would build something so crude. The sensors must be malfunctioning." The unknown ship's engines flared to life, the deep blue glow somehow seeming more ominous than the elegant plasma drives of Nexian vessels. It began to move with a grace that belied its brutal appearance, executing a perfect roll that brought its broadside to bear on the Nexian fleet. "They're hailing us," communications reported. "Audio and visual." "Display," Vexteri ordered, straightening his ceremonial cape. First contact protocols were clear. Show strength and benevolence in equal measure. The screen filled with an image that caused several bridge officers to step back. The alien was Bictal, with dark skin and facial features unlike anything in their database. It wore a simple dark uniform adorned with minimal insignia. But it was the beam's eyes that caught Vexteri's attention. They held the weight of centuries. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiant. You have entered space claimed by the human diaspora. State your intentions." Vexteri's translator took a moment to process the strange language, but he noted the calm authority in the alien's tone. "I am High Admiral Vexteri of the Nexian Empire. We claim this sector by right of exploration. Your vessel is in violation of Imperial space." The human's expression didn't change, but something shifted in those ancient eyes. "Admiral, we've been traveling between the stars since before your empire existed. This sector has been a human waypoint for 3 centuries. Check your long-range sensors. You'll find our beacons marking safe hyperspace routes throughout this region." Zira rushed to her console, and Vexteri saw her crystalline form pale as data streamed across her screen. "Admiral, she's right. We're detecting hundreds of automated markers. How did we miss these?" "Because you weren't looking," Captain Chen answered, though Zira hadn't broadcast her words. "Humanity learned long ago to keep a low profile. We watch, we wait, we prepare. The weapons you see on my ship aren't for conquest. They're necessary for survival in a universe that's far more dangerous than you've yet discovered." Vexteri felt his secondary hearts begin to race. The implications were staggering. If this human spoke truth, their entire understanding of their place in the galaxy needed revision. "You speak of dangers, yet we've encountered nothing that our fleets cannot handle." "Then you've been fortunate," Chen replied. "Or perhaps protected without knowing it. Did you never wonder why certain sectors of space remained mysteriously free of pirates? Why some hostile species suddenly became more amenable to diplomacy? Humanity has been here all along, Admiral. We've watched civilizations rise and fall. We fought horrors you can't imagine, so others wouldn't have to." The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. Vex Terry studied the scared hull of the Defiant with new eyes, seeing now what he'd missed before. This wasn't a primitive vessel. It was a survivor's ship, built by people who'd learned harsh lessons about the true nature of space. "If what you say is true," Vex Terry said carefully, "why reveal yourselves now?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because the darkness we've been fighting is growing stronger. Soon, everyone in this galaxy will need to make a choice, stand together or fall alone. The Nexian Empire has grown into something remarkable. Admiral, we think it's time you joined the larger community of spacefaring species and learned what's really out there." As if to emphasize her words, the Defiant sensors suddenly blared to life. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected," Chen announced, her voice tight with controlled urgency. "You're about to see firsthand why we built our ships the way we did. Recommend your fleet assumes combat formation Delta 7. Before Vex Terry could respond, space itself seemed to tear open, and the real education of the Nexian Empire began. The void erupted with nightmare shapes, vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, their hulls writhing with patterns that hurt the eyes to observe. Vex Terry counted 12 of them, each larger than his flagship, moving with impossible grace for their size. By the first light, Zyra whispered, her crystalline form dimming with fear. "What are they?" "The Void Kindred," Captain Chen's voice cut through the growing panic on the Nexian bridge. "We encountered them 3 centuries ago, when they destroyed our first colony. They don't communicate, don't negotiate, and don't leave survivors. Your weapons will be useless against their phase-shifted hulls." As if to prove her point, the Eternal Dawn's primary battery opened fire, its plasma lances splashing harmlessly against the lead vessel's surface. The enemy ships responded with weapons that seemed to tear holes in reality itself, transforming a Nexian cruiser into abstract art before it imploded. "All Nexian vessels, form up behind the Defiant," Chen commanded, her tone brooking no argument. "Our hull can withstand their primary weapons. Lieutenant Drake, bring the phase cannon online. Show them what humanity learned from our last encounter." The Defiant's scarred hull began to pulse with deep purple energy, transforming the ugly duckling of a ship into something terrible and beautiful. Sections of armor plating shifted and realigned, revealing weapon ports that shouldn't have been possible to engineer. "You said you fought these creatures before," Vex Terry managed, watching as his fleet scrambled to comply with Chen's orders. "How did humanity survive?" "The same way we survived losing Earth," Chen replied grimly. "We adapted. We took our losses, learned from them, and built something stronger. Every scar on this ship tells a story, Admiral. Every weapon represents a lesson paid for in blood." The Void Kindred ships moved to surround them, their very presence seeming to dim the starlight. On the tactical display, Vex Terry watched energy readings spike to impossible levels as reality itself began to warp around their formation. "They're attempting a null field collapse," Chen announced. "It's how they destroyed our colony. They create a bubble of altered spacetime that crushes everything inside. Admiral, I need you to divert all power from your shields to your engines on my mark. What we're about to do will seem insane, but it's the only way to survive." Zyra's crystalline form vibrated with tension. "Admiral, we cannot trust our fleet's survival to an unknown species. The Nexian Empire has stood for 3,000 years. Because we've been protecting you," Chen interrupted, her eyes flashing. "Those trade routes you think are so safe, we patrol them. Those peaceful sectors, we guard them. That's the weight of human history, Sub-Commander. Centuries of standing watch while younger races grow, fighting battles they never knew existed." The Void Kindred ships began to pulse in unison, the space between them taking on a twisted, folded quality that made Vex Terry's 4 eyes water. The Defiant's engines thrummed with power, and its weapon ports began to glow with that same impossible purple energy. "What we're about to show you," Chen continued, her voice softer now, is why humanity builds its ships like fortresses. Why we carry enough firepower to destroy solar systems. Not because we want to use it, but because sometimes the universe doesn't give us a choice. The tactical display showed the null field beginning to form, a sphere of distorted space that would soon crush everything within it to quantum foam. But instead of retreating, the Defiant began to move forward, its engines leaving trails of blue fire against the void. "What are you doing?" Vex Terry demanded, watching as his fleet automatically followed, still in formation behind the human vessel. "Teaching you why the Void Kindred fear us," Chen answered. The Defiant's hull began to shimmer with cascading waves of energy. "You see, Admiral, humanity didn't just learn to survive out here. We learned to win. All Nexian vessels, cut shields and divert to engines on my mark. We're about to show you how humans fight when we got something worth protecting." As the null field closed around them, Vex Terry realized that everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the cosmic order was about to change. The real question was whether his people were ready for the lesson that was coming. The Defiant's maneuver defied everything the Nexians understood about physics and warfare. Instead of trying to escape the null field, Chen's ship accelerated directly toward its center, where the spatial distortion was strongest. Behind them, the Nexian fleet followed in tight formation, their engines straining to match the human vessel's trajectory. "Phase cannon at full charge," a new voice announced over the shared command channel. Lieutenant Drake, his tone carrying the casual confidence of someone who'd done this before. "Quantum wake generators online, ready to initiate the Prometheus protocol on your command, Captain." "What's about to happen," Chen explained to Vex Terry, "is something we discovered by accident during our first encounter with the Kindred. Their null field technology operates by folding spacetime until it collapses. But there's a fraction of a second, just before the collapse, when reality becomes malleable. The Void Kindred ships maintain their perfect formation, clearly not expecting their prey to charge straight into the trap. The space around the fleet began to twist more severely, stars seeming to bend and stretch like reflection in troubled water. Prometheus protocol in 3. Drake counted down. 2, 1. The Defiant's phase cannon fired, not a beam or bolt of energy, but a ripple in reality itself. The purple glow that had built up along the ship's hull rushed forward like a wave, meeting the collapsing null field at its strongest point. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality screamed. The null field, instead of imploding, inverted. The Void Kindred's own weapon turned back on them, their carefully constructed cage of warped spacetime becoming a lens that focused the Defiant's attack. 3 enemy ships simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy in a flash that briefly rivaled a supernova. "Break and engage," Chen commanded. "All Nexian vessels, target the coordinates we're transmitting. Their ships are vulnerable for the next 40 seconds while their phase shift recovers." The Defiant moved with impossible agility for its size, its weapons now firing conventional energy blasts that struck the Kindred ships' suddenly solid hulls. The Nexian fleet, recovering from their shock, joined the attack. Plasma lances that had been useless moments ago now carved through the enemy vessels like knives through silk. "Impossible," Zyra whispered, watching as the mighty Void Kindred fleet began to disintegrate under the combined assault. "How did you know this would work?" "Because we failed enough times to learn how to succeed," Chen replied, her fingers dancing across her command console as she orchestrated the battle. "Every technology has a weakness. Every enemy can be defeated. You just have to be willing to pay the price to learn how." The remaining Kindred ships attempted to retreat, their reality-bending drives creating tears in space. But the Defiant was ready for this too. Its hull pulsed once more, and suddenly the escape routes collapsed, trapping the enemy vessels in normal space. "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, "humanity didn't become strong because we wanted to. We became strong because we had to. Every weapon on this ship, Every scar in its hull represents a lesson learned in blood. We built fortresses in space because we learned that the universe doesn't reward the fragile or the beautiful, it rewards the survivors. The battle, if it could still be called that, was ending. The last void-kindred ship imploded as its damaged drive collapsed in on itself, leaving behind only twisted debris that seemed to fade in and out of existence. Report, Chen commanded, and Vexteri realized she was addressing both her crew and his fleet. No casualties, Drake reported. Phase cannon is offline for the next 6 hours, while the quantum matrices realign. Hull integrity at 92% and holding. 2 Nexian vessels reporting minor damage, Zyra added, her voice still shaking slightly. Nothing our repair systems can't handle. Admiral, how many times have you fought these creatures? Too many, Chen answered softly. They're just one of the threats we've been holding back while younger races grow. There are others out there, threats your people aren't ready to face yet. That's why we watch, why we wait, why we build our ships to endure. Vexteri studied the tactical display, noting how the debris from the battle was already beginning to disappear, as if reality itself was healing. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue to watch from the shadows? Chen's expression grew grave. Because the darkness is growing stronger, Admiral. The Void Kindred are becoming more aggressive, pushing into new territories. And they're not the worst thing out there. Humanity has fought alone for centuries. But the threats we face now, even we can't handle them alone anymore. The implications of her words hung in the silence between their ships, heavy with the weight of history and the promise of an uncertain future. The aftermath of the battle brought an uneasy quiet to both fleets. The Defiant's crew worked efficiently to repair their vessel, while the Nexian ships maintained a protective formation, their sensors sweeping space for any sign of additional threats. Aboard the Eternal Dawn, Vexteri watched recordings of the battle, trying to comprehend the implications of what he'd witnessed. Our analysis of the human vessel's capabilities is concerning, Zyra reported, her crystalline form still dim with residual shock. Their power generation alone violates 3 laws of physics we thought were immutable. And that's just what we can measure. What troubles me more, Vexteri replied, is what this means for our understanding of the galaxy. He gestured to a holographic display showing known space. How many other species are out there, watching us like the humans have? How many threats have we never seen because someone else was fighting them? The bridge's main screen activated, showing Captain Chen's face. She looked tired now, the weight of command visible in the lines around her eyes. Your scientists have questions, Admiral. I can sense them burning from here. Would you accept an invitation aboard the Defiant? There are things you need to see to understand. Hours later, Vexteri stood in what the humans called their memorial hall, the vast chamber running the length of the Defiant's spine. The walls were covered with holographic displays showing ships, planets, and faces. Thousands upon thousands of faces. Every person you see here, Chen explained as they walked, died helping humanity survive. Not just humans. Allies we've made along the way, species who chose to stand with us against the darkness. Some of them are extinct now, their civilizations lost to threats like the Void Kindred. They stopped before a massive display showing a beautiful blue-green world. Earth, Chen said softly. Our homeworld. We didn't leave because we wanted to explore, Admiral. We left because we had to. Our sun was dying, becoming unstable centuries before it should have. We later learned why. The first attack by the Void Kindred, though we didn't know it at the time. They tried to kill us in our cradle. But you survived, Vexteri observed. You built ships like this one. We did more than survive, Chen corrected. We learned, adapted. Every encounter with hostile species taught us something new. We took their technologies, understood them, improved them. The phase cannon that saved us today, reverse-engineered from the wreckage of the first Void Kindred ship we managed to destroy, at the cost of 3 colony vessels, and over 40,000 lives. A new alarm suddenly cut through the ship, different from the battle klaxons they'd heard earlier. Chen's expression hardened as she checked her wrist display. Speaking of learning, Admiral, what we're about to see is something we've been tracking for months. Something worse than the Void Kindred. They rushed to the bridge, where Lieutenant Drake was monitoring a massive energy surge at the edge of their sensor range. "It's bigger this time, Captain," he reported. "The spatial distortion is at least twice the size of anything we've recorded before." On the main screen, space itself seemed to tear open, but unlike the Void Kindred's portals, this breach glowed with sickly green energy. From within emerged a structure that defied description. A writhing mass of geometric shapes that seemed to fold in on themselves impossibly. "The architects," Chen said grimly. "We don't know what they really are, or where they come from. But they don't build ships, they reshape reality itself into weapons. That structure isn't a vessel, it's a living mathematical equation designed to rewrite the laws of physics in this sector." Vex Terry felt his heart skip beats as his mind tried to process what he was seeing. "How do you fight something like that?" "With everything we have," Chen replied, her voice carrying steel. "And now, Admiral, you understand why we revealed ourselves. The architects aren't just our enemy. They're a threat to all life in this galaxy. We've managed to drive them back 3 times, but each time they return stronger, having solved for our defenses in their equations." She turned to face him fully, her eyes carrying the weight of centuries of warfare. "Your empire has resources we need, knowledge we can use, and in return, we can teach you how to survive what's coming. The question is, Admiral, are you ready to learn the real rules of survival in this universe?" Behind them, the impossible structure began to move toward their position, its very existence an affront to reality. And in that moment, Vex Terry understood that his empire's 3,000 years of history had been merely a prelude to the real struggle that lay ahead. The architect's construct pulsed with sickly green light, each fluctuation sending waves of distorted physics rippling through space. On the Defiance Bridge, humans and Nexians stood together, watching as reality itself seemed to fray around the edges of the mathematical monstrosity. "Their equation is more complex this time," Drake reported, his hands dancing across his console. "They've incorporated our previous counterattacks into their calculations. Our standard defense protocols won't work." Chen nodded grimly. "They always adapt. That's why we need something they haven't solved for yet." She turned to Vex Terry. "Admiral, your empire's crystalline technology. It operates on principles fundamentally different from ours, doesn't it?" "Our ships are grown, not built," Vex Terry confirmed, his 4 eyes fixed on the approaching horror. "The crystalline matrices respond to thought and intention as much as physical laws." "Exactly." Chen's eyes lit up with a dangerous gleam of inspiration. "The architects work in pure mathematics, absolute logic. But your technology has an organic component, an element of chaos they can't easily factor into their equations." Understanding dawned in Zura's crystalline form, causing her to glow brighter. "You want to combine our technologies, use our crystalline matrices to introduce an element of uncertainty into their calculations. We've got one shot at this," Chen said. "The Defiance phase cannon is still recharging, but we can modify it to channel energy through your ship's crystalline core. The resulting beam won't just be a weapon. It'll be a paradox they have to solve in real time." The next hour was a blur of activity as human engineers worked alongside Nexian crystalline specialists, their different approaches to physics creating something entirely new. The architect's construct continued its advance, space writhing around it as it tested and rewrote local laws of reality. "They're starting their primary attack sequence," Drake warned. "Whatever we're going to do, it needs to happen now." Chen stood at her command station, one hand resting on the modified weapon controls. "All Nexian vessels, form up behind us. When we fire, channel all your energy through your crystalline cores. Let your crews project their thoughts, their intentions, their very will through the matrices. Make it as chaotic and unpredictable as possible. The architect's construct began to pulse faster, its impossible geometries rearranging themselves into what looked like the barrel of a weapon that could unmake existence itself. Green energy built up at its core, preparing to rewrite the laws of physics in a way that would eliminate all life in the sector. Now, Chen commanded. The Defiance phase cannon fired, but this time the beam was different. A swirling vortex of purple energy shot through with crystalline patterns that seemed to follow no logical sequence. The Nexian fleet's combined power flowed through it, carrying with it the thoughts and emotions of thousands of crew members. The beam struck the architect's construct, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to hiccup. The construct's perfect geometries began to twitch and shift, its calculations disrupted by the introduction of an element it couldn't process, the chaos of organic thought and emotion channeled through crystalline technology. "It's working," Drake shouted. "Their equation can't resolve. The paradox is forcing them to recalculate faster than they can adapt." The construct's surface began to crack, lines of normal space showing through its impossible geometries. Green energy sparked and flared as the mathematical weapon tried desperately to solve for a variable that defied solution. "Keep firing," Chen ordered. "Pour everything you have into it. Show them that some things can't be reduced to numbers and logic." With a sound that couldn't exist in normal space, the architect's construct shattered. Its fragments dissolved into mathematical static before fading away entirely, leaving behind only the normal, comforting laws of physics. In the silence that followed, Chen turned to Vexteri. "This is why we revealed ourselves, Admiral. Not just because we needed allies, but because the galaxy needs something more than just survival now. It needs innovation, cooperation, the willingness to combine different ways of thinking, to create something new." Vexteri studied the human captain, seeing her in a new light. "You could have conquered us centuries ago. With your technology, your knowledge. That's not who we are." Chen interrupted softly. "We didn't become strong to dominate. We became strong to protect. And now we're asking you to join us, not as subjects, but as equals. There are more threats out there, more horrors waiting in the dark between stars. But together, Vexteri finished, we can face them all." The Defiant and the Eternal Dawn hung side by side in space, their different designs representing two approaches to surviving the galaxy's dangers. But in their victory over the architects, they had proven that the future belonged not to those who fought alone, but to those who learned to combine their strengths. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other eyes watched, and other minds began to consider that perhaps humans weren't the savages they had first appeared to be, but rather the guardians that had dangerous